and we are back with you live from the LinkedIn Hub, nearing the end of day 2 of Advertising Week, and we have with us Bergmann, who is the Director of Content and Creative at MediaCom. Caitlin, you are, obviously, your world, probably you wake up and sleep and eat and everything and think in terms of social media and social media stars and social media everything. And so let's start by just jumping right into that.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to talk a little bit about some of the really socially savvy celebrities, some of the people that quote unquote broke the internet this year, and people, and your specific perspective is that we need to stop thinking of these people as social media stars and think of them as just plain stars.
Correct.
So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, but I wake up, the first thing I do is check Twitter. Brushing teeth comes secondary to Twitter.
Twitter can't smell my breath, so
yeah,
it doesn't matter.
You just got to live your life. So, I think it's really interesting that you're looking around at what's happening now. And I can't attribute this to the person, but I read something about how if you take a look at what's happening, you see the traditional supermodels used to be on the cover of magazine cover, and then it became Jennifer Aniston's on the magazine cover, and now you look today, Tyler Oakley is on the cover of 17 magazine. You drive down Sunset Boulevard. I was just in LA for a shoot last weekend. He's 50-foot billboard.
I saw that. I did a double take on Sunset. I was like, what?
Yeah, exactly. So that being said, I think we need to stop caveating them as their social stars, their Vine stars. Just acknowledge them as they rightfully deserve to be, as just stars. The audience they command, the influence they have, their audiences are fiercely loyal. And the amount of money that they can command for getting that message out is also, really compelling. So I think we need to stop, caveating that they're just social stars. They are stars, and they're entitled to that.
So, I mean, I think that's a very natural segue into, okay, so now we know that these people are stars. We know that they have, a huge microphone, essentially. So from the advertising perspective, from the marketer's perspective, then we think about how do we use these people and what kind of content do we use these stars and these people whose voices are so amplified to reach target consumers?
Yeah, I think it's all about right person, right time, right message. We just did a campaign with Strayer University, who's a client at MediaCom, called Readdress Success. We worked with the actor Anthony Anderson from Blackish, it's hilarious, on getting out a petition to go change the definition of success in Merriam-Webster's dictionary, because it's all about the money and the Benjamins and not about how you feel at the end of the day. And it needs to get less about fame and more about success and how you feel, which fits really well with what Strayer's trying to accomplish there. So it's about getting the right fit, the right distribution. It's going to feel native when he's posting it, and it's not going to look or smell like an ad when the consumer sees it. It's going to be something that feels really authentic. And authenticity is really key when you're trying to connect with consumers and get them to share. And it's just a really exciting time, I think, for advertisers to tap into that line of thinking. And if you're not doing it now, I think you've missed the boat.
Yeah, and I mean, and a lot of people I have spoken to are very keenly aware of that the way forward is not the rational look, here are the, advantages of my product and so on, and much more about the storytelling, the custom content, the content that almost doesn't feel like an ad until the end, and more so elicits an emotional reaction from the consumer, and then they associate their brand with that emotional reaction. So is that something that you are very focused on in the work that you do in terms of creating the content? Yeah,
I think if you look at somebody like Tyler Oakley, again, what he's been able to accomplish with the LGBT community is huge. And he's very keenly aware that he's changed people's lives with a YouTube channel. That's tremendous. That's something you couldn't say 10 years ago.
No, absolutely not.
So, trying to find the right partners and connecting with the right audience through them as the distribution channel is really key to getting the right audience to share and talk about your content.
You work for a media company, and yet your focus is much more creating the content.
Yeah,
so
it's like left meets right brain.
Right, exactly. How do you balance that? How do you reconcile it? And then we'll talk about the shortness or the short formness of content.
So MediaCom, obviously by the name, is a media agency. I work in a department called Innovation, which is a small creative department inside the agency. And what's great is that I have access to all the planners and all the people that are working hard on distributing my idea, my concept, and that's huge because in other places where they don't have that model, just kind of make your work, you give birth to it, and you wave goodbye, and now you feel really connected to what's going on. So it's an exciting place to work, and it's an exciting time. Really proud about some of the recent work we're doing and who we've been partnering up with. So I'm loving it.
What are some of the really interesting, successful ones where you thought, wow, we got it right, or somebody got it right on this one?
The Strayer one with Anthony was interesting because I think there's kind of the token things that you can put in a video where you're always going to get a good reaction. It's children, tiny animals.
Oh.
You cannot go wrong, and if they're both in the same...
It's like putting garlic in pasta.
Exactly.
It's like you can't go wrong. Yeah.
And if they're in the same video together, you're double
Children
winning.
and small animals.
So, in the Anthony video, there's a child interviewer who's asking Anthony about what the definition of success is, and she's just so precocious, and the feedback across the board has just been so positive. It's probably the first video in my life that I've ever worked on where unanimously the conversation's been so positive. So to that I say, more tiny animals and children in videos, I think is the way to go.
Okay, advertising world. Caitlin has just
cracked it. You're welcome.
This is it. Tiny animals. Everybody, I can just see, what is the trend for 2016 in advertising?
Koalas, pandas.
The younger the kid, the better.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the other thing we've been talking about, obviously, is people now, they don't have the time or the patience or anything, for long-form content anymore. So it's all about short-form content, but at the same time, you cannot sacrifice the quality.
It's true.
So have you found that to be a real challenge, and what are some of the keys for overcoming that challenge in order to still give people quality? Because people know the difference.
They do. And if you've set it up where they're not interested from the get-go, you've lost them. You only have one chance to make the first impression. So to that end, I think, Vine is the shortest short-form content one can produce.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to tell a story in 6 seconds, but there's people that are doing a really stellar job of accomplishing that, and it's impressive, and it's a skill. And again, you can't be dismissive about these people. That's why these people are stars on these platforms. It's tricky to tell a story in a short amount of time. But I think we live in this very Veruca Salt world. We want everything now. People don't have the patience anymore to go watch this, War and Peace length 20-minute opus of content. They want it to be short.
Was not 20 minutes too, right?
Digestible. So 6 seconds, 2 minutes. You need to find a way to go strike that balance, but still tell the story in a quality way.
But how do you do that for a brand?
It's difficult. I think your client needs to be able to be on board and subscribe to that same logic. And I think most do, because they can look at the data, the left brain, and go find out, okay, this isn't performing well. Why? Maybe it's because it's too long. Maybe we need to get to that call to action sooner, where that's placed. I think these are all critical conversations you need to have with your clients when you're working on the agency side, and brands too.
So you said that the D word, you talked about data, and I know that we had said we weren't going to talk about left brain stuff, and we won't directly, but I do want to talk a little bit about one of the things you're talking about in the panel was breakthroughs in audience targeting.
Yeah.
So targeting, how, getting to the right consumer with these. So you've got this great content, you're being creative, you've managed to put it in the really short time, getting it to the right audience.
Yeah, there's a lot of clutter you need to break through. And I think just speaking from a pure consumer side, again, I wake up, I check Twitter. There's been so many times where I'm going through my timeline and I'm being served ads that are not relevant to me.
Yes.
And if that's my first interaction with your brand, again, one chance to make that first impression, that's not a great user experience. So there's so many tools with the data folks have access to that I think we really need to be very smart about who we're targeting, when, why. You really need to make sure that the relevance is there. Otherwise, you're not going to connect with the consumer. And just from my own perspective of using this day in and day out, it's really impactful. And I feel like the technology is there. We need to use it, have a really critical eye of what we're distributing to people and on what platforms.
Well, Caitlin, good luck making all kinds of amazing videos.
Thanks,
and really
maybe pandas.
6 seconds of pandas. We're good. We sold. What did you want to sell? Laundry detergent? 6 seconds of panda. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And enjoy the rest of advertising week.
Thanks so much. You too.
You.